This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
Now, prepare yourselves for a Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels special edition. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, Scoundrels and Star Wars fans, and welcome to episode 67.3, a Scoundrels Special Edition. On this episode, we'll be reviewing the latest episode of Resistance, Synara's Score. I'm Dennis, and tonight I am joined by both my friends and co-hosts, Darth Taxus and Jay Krebs. Good evening, Jay and Taxus.
Woohoo! Yeah, this is the first Resistance review that we've actually all three been together for, so wow.
The prophecy has been fulfilled.
Yeah.
Indeed it has. So I'm glad all three of us are together for this one. This is a fairly straightforward episode. And Scoundrels, this is a full spoiler review. So if you haven't watched Synara's Score, hit pause, take about 24 minutes to watch the episode, and come back. We'll wait. All right. Well, Taxus, sound the spoiler. This is a full spoiler discussion from this point on. Okay, so the episode begins with Tam, Kaz, and Neeku working on restoring a tracking system for Colossus's weapons system. Without the system, Colossus is vulnerable if the ace pilots need to depart for a mission. Mm-hmm. And naturally, as with everything else they repair in the shop, a rare and expensive piece gets broken in the process.
Dope.
So, is it just me, or does it seem like we're just recycling a plot element from an episode we just saw?
Maybe a little bit. I think they're trying to get the point across that there's a lot of desperation going on. You know what I mean? In every episode, it's kind of do or die.
Well, yeah. Okay. So I've thought about that, Dennis, and then I thought, every time something goes wrong in my truck, you know, like I get it repaired, something else goes wrong in my truck, and I'm like, God, I just dropped $800 on this, and how much is this? $1,300. Oh, okay. Well, I guess I need to put it on. You know what I mean? But other than that, yeah, it kind of reminded me back of what was that main component piece that they had to go? It was like super heavy. We talked about last episode.
The compressor or the capacitor. I can't remember which one it was. But yeah,
the compressor. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the Chelde, the turtle people in the engineering section.
Yeah, exactly.
Repaired it. One of them, they basically declared it was total. Yeah, I get what you're saying, Taxus. I mean, repairs have to be made, and that I don't have a problem with. It's just the we've now seen this a couple times. Kaz had to go bargain for a part early on, and then that capacitor and compressor broke, so he had to go try and get one of those, and that ended up with the whole Children of Tahar incidents. And here they are in the middle of fixing the tracking system, which is a desperately needed thing. I get that, but the one part that breaks is naturally the most rare, expensive, difficult part to get.
Well, yeah.
And to the point that when they go. Tam and Kaz go down to see Flix and Okra. They basically sell the parts on the station. They're laughing at them about this. It's like, oh yeah, I got a whole box of those and hyperdrive motivators and a box full of kyber crystals. And Kaz, and his natural self says like, wow, you guys actually have all that. And at this point, there's a lot of things that Kaz does that kind of annoy me because they're just over exaggerated, but I didn't mind so much that his general naivety came through with that reaction. But what did you all think?
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that one because he's really not in touch with everything that goes on in the scavenger business, so to speak. So, I mean, it's understandable to a point, like you said, that he would be believing that, oh, wow, they even have kyber crystals, which I thought was interesting that they even mentioned that. But how old did we say Kaz was? Is he like 19? Have we even established that yet? As far as like his actual age goes?
Well, he's been through some sort of Republic Navy.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming he's in his late teens, early 20s, which in a lot of ways is all about the same age.
Yeah, means he's a complete moron.
I wouldn't go that far, but...
No, I get what you mean by that. And to a certain extent, I'm kind of like, Kaz, come on, dude. You know what I mean? You need to start getting some situational awareness right now. I mean, they taught you that. You're a pilot. You know what I mean? But then again, there's some people that are just, they're street smart and they're book smart. And maybe he's more book smart than he is street smart at this point. I feel like he'll learn at some point, but, there's this whole, like, gee willikers, guys, we can still pull this together element to him that, comes across. And maybe that's because he was born and grew up in the New Republic, so he's not tainted by, everything that happened, like somebody that was, let's say Cassian Andor, for example. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure.
He's just not seasoned to everything going on around him.
Sure.
He's been he's grown up in this little, like you said, kind of in a little box.
A little bubble.
Yeah. And,
He's a bubble boy.
He is a
Well,
bubble
and
boy.
also in his defense, previously when he's needed something on Colossus Station, he goes and sees Flix and Orca, and they have it. He may not actually get it from them because it's too expensive to acquire from them. So, I don't know. I just didn't think it was unreasonable for him to expect it to be there. And, I thought the reaction was a little harsh about that. I think it was Flix is like, no, you idiot. We don't actually have that stuff. And that's almost a direct quote. But
they came off like a couple of fanboys, didn't they? You know what I mean?
Sure. But
sure. Dude, didn't you look it up on the wiki? There's no kyber crystals here.
Right. So, having struck out there, they go head to the salvage yards to see if Synara can get them one. Cass happens to know that she's working there after he helped rescue her in the last episode. She's still posing as a refugee from the pirate attack and what is that, Signal in Sector 6? Hey, I said it without tripping over my
job.
tongue. But she has a lot of questions for them about it, but she does manage to find one of the chips and hands it over. She suspects that the weapon system may be down because of that chip. She knows what it's for. She's not an idiot. And then she contacts Craig and Gore to relay her suspicions. So at this point, she's still squarely in the camp of a pirate infiltrator of the station. And we're going to, jumping ahead a little bit here, but she's going to kind of, they tease that she's kind of coming back around the other way. But I don't know, did anyone here, at this point I was kind of beginning to wonder, I'm sorry, I'm stumbling over my question here.
I think I know.
I'm trying to figure out how to say it.
Yeah.
I was really buying into she is a pirate. She is out to betray them. But, I thought they did a great job with her in this episode. Her being that hardened, hell, she's a better spy than Kaz is in this regard. But so what did you all think of? I can't come up with the right question, so I'm just going to throw it out there. What did you all think of her at this point in the episode?
I love Synara. Can I just say I am very intrigued by her. I actually want to cosplay her, quite honestly.
Oh, wow.
But I have the green eyes, so I think I got a good start.
Ooh.
But yeah, I feel like she's got to have a good backstory. I want to know more about her. I want to know how she ended up with them, because I feel like she's really on the fence in terms of she seems like she's a survivor, and she basically goes with whichever side is going to provide her with the most protection. So at this point, I think that is Craig and Gore in the Pirates, and that's where she sees her quote unquote salvation. So I love her though. I really do. She's probably so far, she's going up the scale as far as one of my very favorite characters in this entire series.
All right. Well, I would have to say, yeah, I agree, Jay. I want to live with a Synara girl, and I would be happy the rest of my life with a Synara girl. However, I feel like, and I'm completely fine with this because, it's what it is. I feel like her transition through this episode was like anticipated and kind of quick. You know what I mean? I'm just predicting next couple episodes, there's probably going to be some stuff where it's like, oh, I don't know what to do, and you know what I mean? But something happened to her. Yeah, you know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. But that's fine. I understand. There's only so much time that they can develop the storyline in. So.
Yeah, you're jumping ahead a little bit in the episode, but that's a point I want to revisit here in just a sec. Okay. So she's contacted Craig and Gore and gives them the news.
Great.
She then investigates her suspicion further by showing up unannounced at Jaeger's garage. She catches Tam, Kaz, and Neeku working on the targeting system. Now, one of the things neglected to mention earlier was that the fact that the targeting system is not working is supposed to be a big secret, and Jaeger swears them all to silence. And Neeku, in typical Neeku fashion, overreacts to this to the point where he's keeping his lips sealed by literally putting his hand over his mouth and trying to talk through his hand. And so he's the one that tips Tam and Kaz into the fact that Synara showed up and discovered them working on the tracking system. And Synara, again, she's actually a fairly good spy. She shows up with some parts that she might think, she thinks that might be helpful to them because they had that chip. And, she's playing innocent that this is, that they might need this. So, I guess I want to flow right into the next part here real quick, but did you all have any reaction to Neeku's role in this episode?
Well, he's over the top as usual. That's all I'm going to say.
If he was a droid, would we be as, I don't know, I don't want to say troubled, but pinpointed on his comedy? You know what I mean? He's like taking the place of the droid, the like C-3PO, for example. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's what
is he that or is he Jar Jar?
Okay. That puts in perspective for all you Neeku haters out there.
I don't hate him. But
I know you don't, Dennis.
I didn't say that I did.
I didn't say you did either, Jay.
Okay.
I'm just messing with you. But no, seriously, I know that that's like a point of contention with some people and everything, but the thing is, there's a comedy element in Star Wars, and if you don't like that, I don't know, go watch Star Trek or something and like pretend everybody's Han Solo.
I think that's a bit harsh, and here's why. I think that there is a standard for Star Wars comedy that we're used to, which is the banter between Leia and Han, which is, maybe Jango Fett smacking his head on the way back into Slave One, on Attack of the Clones. Just something that's a little bit more subtle, not quite so in your face about this. And I don't want to get off on too much of a sidetrack here, but I think that was kind of the problem with that people had with Jar Jar. It was just a bit over the top. That is at times what I've had a problem with Neeku, is it is over the top. I mean, even 3PO was considerably more
subtle.
Yeah, in comparison to Neeku. Sure. Now, I thought it was hysterical that Neeku was trying to get Tam and Kaz's attention. I'm not even shipping these two, and I'm trying to combine their names. But he's trying to get their attention, and he's doing that whole, and they're just, and Tam says, just start talking, because it is ridiculous, to get their attention. But perhaps it was some needed comedic relief for this episode. But their attempt to cover what they're doing goes about as well as you would think, which is not at all. Synara figures out what they're doing, even though Kaz tries to pass off this tracker as a food steamer.
Of all things.
It's a lot of food.
He's not good at thinking on his feet like that. But
I would have said it was a nuke.
Well, you could have said it was a lot of different things, but but I mean,
before we move forward, can I ask one question? And maybe this was something that I missed earlier in the episode. They talked about that the Aces were going off to escort an important supply shipment.
Yes.
Do we know what this important supply shipment is?
I feel like it might have been a fuel supply shipment from the First Order, maybe. I don't know. Just saying.
Well, we were told in that episode that you're referring to, Taxus, that the Aces will frequently escort important shipments, and the fuel shipment from the First Order then happened to qualify. Considering that the First Order does have a presence in this episode later, I don't think that was necessarily the case. It was just they've done the establishing shot in a previous episode to give us the idea that this is something that the Aces do. They do go escort important shipments in. I'm not sure why it takes all 5 of them, but it does.
Right. They explicitly said all of the Aces are leaving to go escort this shipment.
Well, if one of them stays behind, they can't form Voltron.
I guess not.
Yeah,
so must be. Well, it's their pirate repellent tactic. Is basically what it is, right?
But if it was the First Order, isn't that the trick of tyrants? You know what I mean? Like to pretend, to be generous in one hand, yet have the slow dagger in the other. You know what I mean? And that's what their support of the pirates is. So when I saw them leaving, Jay, I agree with you. I immediately thought that was something that the First Order was setting up in order to set up the attack on the station. You know?
Here's the problem, though, is that we already knew that the Aces were going to go off and help on a shipment before Synara knew that there was a problem with the tracking system.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it wasn't the First Order. I don't think you can necessarily put 2 and 2 together in this situation to determine that this was orchestrated. This specific incident was orchestrated by the First Order, because this was already a problem at the beginning of the episode. They had to get the tracking system up and going because the Aces were going to be going out on a mission and it was going to leave the station defenseless.
Right.
And it was then after that Synara found out about the tracking system and related it to Kragan. So, we already knew that. It could be, I think that, we learned in things like Rebels that sometimes what appears to be inconsequential can have ramifications later.
Right.
I think it was
like a bad
simply
burrito.
That this was a threw me off. I think in this case that this was simply a plot device to get things moving.
Okay.
To get that was just part of the story. But
Okay.
So anyway, where were we? Oh, Tam has invited Synara to go. She's on her break and she needs to get Synara out of the garage. So she invites them out to dinner. While they're out, they never actually make it to dinner. They're just kind of chatting about how they ended up everywhere. And we get a little bit more of Tam's backstory about how her father was a racer, she was a racer, she needed parts, and she used her ship as collateral to get a loan. And when she lost a race, she lost her ship. And so now she's saving up money so that she become a racer again. Tam is my favorite character on the show right now. I like Jaeger and I like Captain Doza. Kaz is growing on me some, but I don't know. Tam just seems kind of the most grounded to me, and she's, I think, got the best overall story right now. I think Jaeger might have that as well, but they've only kind of really alluded to what's going on with him and hinted. They haven't really kind of told us what's happened to Jaeger. But I don't know. What do y'all think?
As far as Tam goes, she is pretty grounded, but there's actually this particular scene where they're both kind of standing over the rail, and I believe that this is in the episode guide, and the looks on both of their faces, both Tam and Synara, I mean, they're both just kind of looking out into the distance, almost in I wouldn't say desperation necessarily, but and what was the line? They both wanted the same thing more than what life has offered us.
Yeah.
I think is what Synara said. And again, to me, that just speaks volumes that, Tam is very grounded, but she wants more. And I again, I'm going back to this idea of Synara and, what's going on with this girl, because she's obviously kind of looking in the same way that Tam is. So I just think there's so much more to this story.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I feel like Tam is held in reserve as a character right now. Like, we're just not getting a whole bunch of her because she's, I don't know. I think last episode, Dennis, you and I were talking about, like, well, how great of a pilot was she? You know what I mean? Why aren't they focusing on her? Maybe they will. You know what I mean? Maybe we're going to be pleasantly surprised by all this.
Yeah. Well, I think Tam's expectation that she's going to make enough money at the garage to buy herself an eraser is maybe a little unrealistic, but that's a conversation for another time. Well, it's at that moment, as you were saying, Jay, that when Synara and Tam kind of have this, they have this moment where they kind of realize that they have something in common, that the Aces launch for their mission, and Tam realizes that she has no time to waste. She has to get back to the garage. Synara then also puts 2 and 2 together that the station is defenseless, so she contacts Kragan and lets him know that, hey, now's the time. The pirates need to attack. So they do. They haven't got the targeting station finished yet, and Synara says, hey, I'm heading over to the cargo bay because Synara is there and she might need help. And she leaves it to, they've essentially got the repairs done on the tracking system and they need to get it plugged in, and then it'll kind of take care of itself. That's the point. So because we got about 10 minutes left here, I've just kind of summarized what's going on so we can discuss it. Tam rushes off to help Synara. Synara is surprised to see her. She was not expecting that gesture of friendship. Kaz and Jaeger take a hover sled of sorts and takes the tracker back to where it needs to be installed. And along the way, they get attacked by the Trandoshan pirate, which apparently was not the one that was eaten by the ape lizard in the previous episode.
Unless their digestive systems are completely different than what we thought.
A Hask pirate and Kragan himself try to get in their way. And eventually, after several near misses, they get that tracking system installed. The systems come online and they drive off the pirates. And Synara then and Tam then kind of have a moment about, hey, what do you came back for me? And Tam says, well, yeah, that's what friends are for. That's what, and so, they've developed this quick friendship. And then I want to say the last moment, the last scene we've seen with Captain Doza for last in a second. But what did you think of the rapidly developing friendship? And we kind of touched on that. So let's actually look at Kaz and Jaeger. Jaeger has some very kind things to say to Kaz after this is all over.
He does. He's very encouraging. He says, you did a good job, which of course Kaz is very surprised to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Pleasantly so.
Yeah, that was nice. I mean, I always expected them to kind of join a little closer, as it gets closer to the, midpoint of the series right now, right? He is the Maester, you might say. He's the Jägermeister. That's right. But again, I'm still kind of a little... Oh, gee willikers, you came back for me? Then I'm prepared to betray everything that I'm working for to be your friend, even though you only offered to buy me lunch. You know what I mean? Which I'll do. I'll betray anybody for lunch. I'm just saying. But didn't that feel a little weird?
Well, it seems a little bit rushed, yes, but it didn't seem all that different to me than a lot of things we saw it happen in Rebels and Clone Wars. You have 24 minutes to tell a story, to get it in there.
Sure.
And I don't know exactly where they're going with Synara in this series, if she is going to completely turn on the pirates and become... And, be a regular on Colossus Station and become one of the good guys, so to speak, maybe an Agent Callus type. One of the things that I suspect is going to come up, there will be a revelation that she was a pirate and that the folks on Colossus Station are going to have to figure out what to do with her. And, poor Tam, she doesn't know that Kaz is a spy. She doesn't know that Synara is a spy. And these are like two of the people that are closest to her on the station. And so she's kind of in for a rude awakening at some point in the near future when she's going to find out both of them are not who she thought they were.
Well, not only that, but Jaeger even said, what was it that he said? You're not the only one on this station who's a spy or something like that. So he obviously knows that. How much does he know? Who else is?
I don't think Synara.
No, I don't think he knows it's Synara, but obviously there's others. And
Neeku.
Sure, but do you think he was referring to someone specifically, or do you think he's just wise enough to know that in a place like Colossus Station, which is there on the edge of wild space, there with the First Order, that this is a place that people are going to come to get information, and therefore that you were never going to be the only spy on this station.
Was he referring to himself?
Ooh.
Hey.
He was pretty definitive in his answer. I mean, he was like, you are not the only spy on the station. So I can definitely see where you're coming from, Dennis, with that. And I can definitely see that. But to me, it seemed like, ooh, okay, what does he know?
Mm-hmm. Maybe there's a reason why Poe trusted him to take
right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but if you remember Poe arriving on Colossus Station with Kaz, Jaeger didn't want to do this. He was not interested. To me, it seems like Jaeger's story is more along the lines of, I fought for the rebellion. I was part of that war. I had a family. Something has happened to his family. He's no longer interested in being part of that fight. He did his part. And now he's just trying to get away from all that out here on Colossus Station. And unfortunately, circumstances are such that he's getting pulled back into it. And his better nature is going to get the best of him at some point, and he's going to have to take the resistance side and things.
It's like The Godfather.
But anyway, I just that's my take. As for And we've covered Synara and Tam. I really, it's there's a lot of things that have happened in this series that are kind of tropes. Which is the, the reluctant conversion, the fish out of water with Kaz, and the misunderstanding between Kaz and Toradoza, about what their relationship is and that type of thing.
The girl in a box.
Wasn't thinking that.
Oh,
but
Whoa.
But the point being is that I think this is a Star Wars series that is introducing yet another generation to the saga.
Yeah.
And so we're going to see some of those things. I feel like the series has grown up a little bit in the short time that we've had it, half a season or wherever we are. I'm not even sure how many episodes this first season is.
Yeah.
But that
question.
I think those first couple episodes, it really seemed like it was aimed at a much younger audience than what the last couple episodes been.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. And it's funny because I just had this conversation with my oldest child, who's now home from college for the holidays.
Doesn't that feel good?
It does. But he said, Mom, you got to the rule of thumb is you have to give a series at least 3 episodes before you make a true judgment. And I thought, okay, that's really smart, actually, because you can at least get an arc, so to speak, of some of the things that are happening. And I definitely feel like, now the ball is starting to really roll. It's almost like, getting those first 100 pages in of a novel.
Sure. Yeah.
So the final scene of the show is Captain Doza looking out over the ocean, and then he turns to his comm and he contacts Commander Pyre. And he says, I'd be interested in seeing the proposal from the First Order on how, because I got to do something to stop these pirate attacks. And, he'd been writing Jaeger this entire episode about getting that tracking system done. And to me, which is kind of if you're so concerned about things, Captain Doza, then maybe delay the shipment coming in so you're not defenseless. But instead he pressed forward with that, and we don't know who it was that was delivering that shipment, and maybe it wasn't something that could get delayed. But he didn't even give Jaeger and Tam and all them a heads up that my aces are launching. The tracking system now would be great. It's just all of a sudden the pirates attacked and they're stuck in that position.
You will know when you see the sign.
Yeah. But anyways, my take on this was that, Doza is a practical man, and he's got a station that he has to look after. He takes his role. We've learned in previous episodes that he takes his role as the guy in charge very seriously, and the people that are on that station are under his protection, and he has to do something to protect these people. And right now, there's not like Republic help is coming. It's not like Resistance help is coming.
Right.
There's spies there, but he's got to look out for. He's got to look out for the station. That's his responsibility, and so he's doing what he has to do. He's been kind of suckered into this, but I don't know. Do you all have a different take on that?
I mean, not really. I feel like he is kind of acting out of somewhat desperation here. He doesn't really know where else to turn or what else to do. But I don't know. It just seems like it was, I don't know, maybe a knee-jerk reaction in a way. But maybe I'm just, looking too much on the surface.
So, okay, earlier when you were mentioning who your favorite characters are, I was doing some deep soul searching, and I reached within myself and determined that I think Doza is one of my favorite characters in the show.
Really?
We really don't know too much about his background. I really thought his daughter was going to play much more of a prominent role in the first few episodes than she really has, if you think about it.
They certainly set that up.
Yeah, he's got more screen time than she does, right? At this point, if we think about it.
She was all over the promotional imagery.
Right.
Yeah,
I was going to say, I don't think we've seen the end of her, but...
And there's a reason why he's in charge. You know what I mean? So bringing in the First Order like he is, that might not be a sign of weakness. You know what I mean?
Oh, I wasn't trying to say it was a sign of weakness. Like I was saying, he's a practical man. There is he's doing what is necessary, what needs to be done in this case, because the pirates have attacked a couple times now, and he has a defense system that wasn't available. And when his ace pilots are gone, as Kragan says when he's leaving the station, we've done enough damage. It wasn't really so much about acquiring anything on the station. It was all about setting Colossus up as, you know, you can't defend yourselves. You need help. You know,
which is what
the first orders. Yeah, the first orders made you a proposal.
Mm-hmm.
Who else has done that?
And so that's why I feel like almost maybe his invitation to the First Order is a trap. You know what I mean? Or a way to make them play their hand. You know?
Possible.
Yeah. Maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I think Doza's kind of one of the more fascinating characters in this entire show.
Well, we've about run out of time, so why don't we go around the table real quick, offer some final thoughts and our grades. So, Jay, let's start with you.
I actually really enjoyed this episode. Like I said, I've fallen in love with Synara, and I love Tam, and I do appreciate the way that the show is really starting to evolve, and we're starting to get a little bit more depth in the characters. We're getting a little bit more depth in the storylines. You know, there's still some things here and there that I might want to change, but I mean, you got to take it for what it is. And so I'm going to give this one. I'm going to give it an A-. I really enjoyed it.
All right. Taxus?
So yeah, I enjoyed kind of the whole story about needing to get the computer up online. Yeah, that was cool. It is what it is, but they had to rush the character development in this, and if it's going to where I think it's going to, I feel like, maybe it's too rushed, you know. Other than that, it was a fun episode. I'm just going to give it a flat B. So.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say so much. I'm not sure I agree with the character development was rushed so much as the relationship between Tam and Synara was rushed.
All right.
That being said, I think Resistance seems like it's kind of turned a corner where we've had a whole lot of episodes that were development for future plot lines and things that were coming up. And this episode felt like we were starting to get over that hill where the world building can be a little bit more subtle, not quite as in your face, and we're starting to see the payoff on some of those things. And, I thought pulling off the pirate attack and taking advantage of it, and, Kragan's just simple line that we've done enough damage. That was some good storytelling right there. And so for me, I enjoyed this one. I've enjoyed the last couple episodes a lot more than I enjoyed the first few episodes. I'm going to give this a B+. And I look forward to seeing what they're going to do next. But that will do it for our discussion of Synara's score. Before we go, what do you guys have going on that the Scoundrels can look forward to in the weeks ahead?
Well, in the weeks ahead, right here on Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels is going to be my number one priority and attention. But you can always catch my former blogs and reviews on Coffee with Kenobi and my Core Worlds Couture fashion reviews, as well as, my other takes on various Star Wars things over there as well.
And you can always find me over on Screen with Scott Murray, Regina Davis, and Jeff McGee. Drops every Tuesday or so, and it's a fun little game show where we talk about current topics, and somebody comes out to pick week's free. Other than that, I'm going to do a lot of shopping for Christmas.
Nice.
Thank you.
All right.
Not nice.
As for me,
evil.
As for me, you can find my comic reviews on retrozap.com, and each month I'm talking Star Wars comics with Jovial J. Shepard on Jedi Journals, and then I am also a blogger on Coffee with Kenobi. If you want to find us on social media, we are at SQPod on Twitter and Instagram, and on Facebook at facebook.com/SQPod. You can email us at sqpod@retrozap.com. You can follow Darth Taxus on Twitter at Darth Taxus. Jay is at Joyce Krebs, and I am at DJKBER2. Speaking of RetroZap, we are a proud part of the RetroZap.com podcast network. The network currently features more than a dozen shows covering everything from retro gaming and movies to the Animaniacs, collecting, Dune, Game of Thrones, and of course, a whole lot of Star Wars. You can subscribe to the network feed and you'll get them all in one place. So that'll do it for this Scoundrel Special Edition. We'll talk to you soon with another edition of Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels. Until then, may the Force be with you.